I'm going to record this, and it'll be in the Lifeshine Generosity coaching community. Each of you that join the Lifeshine community, I will reach out with a message just to start a conversation, to chat, and learn a little bit more about you and what you're trying to achieve. Again, my name is Coach John, and I'll be your host for this evening. And I'd like to introduce our interns, and I'll start with Mika. If you would just tell them a little bit about yourself and what you're doing.
Hello, my name is Mika. I'm going to UCI, and I'm doing program in UCI, and I graduated from Japanese University last March, and my major was international liberal arts, and I'm business with intern. Thank you.
All right, Justin, share a little bit.
Hi, I am Justin, and I'm currently a student at UCI, and I'm majoring in business economics, and I'll be graduating this year. Thank you.
And Terry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Terry. I'm a current sophomore at UCI studying business economics as well. I would say that one of my favorite things to do is just, make a lot of memories with my friends.
Thanks, guys. We have one other person that wasn't able to join us named Vee Duong is a student, and she's actually in her home country of Vietnam. Justin is currently in Indonesia, which really makes this a very interesting, obviously very international flavored event. So my name's John Whitt. I told you that beforehand. I spent about 30 years in the multi-billion-dollar corporate space, and in 2010, I left that space. It was the Great Depression or the Great Recession, so to speak. And the company I was working for decided to go to Dallas, and I didn't want to go to Dallas and decided to start my own practice. And so I've been running my own one-on-one coaching practice, or actually one-to-one, one-to-many. I do a lot of different things since 2010. In 2019, I was at a meeting where I was introduced to a group of students that were looking for an intern program, and I volunteered, and I said, yes, I can help one student and I can help them be an intern. And they actually created my, his name was Connor, and he created my Instagram channel. And since then, I've brought about 45 different students through the Business with Intern program. And over the last year, we've built this community called the Lifeshine Generosity Community. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. But it's really all about, we decided it's going to make it all about students. It's all about careers. It's all about helping students get to that next place that they need to go, right? And we know that I know that it's very stressful coming out of college and moving into the working world, right? It's a big shift. It's a big change. And there's the process that you have to do to go out and get or start your career, get a job. And then there's the, how do I get better in that space as well? And so we just thought that this would be a great opportunity. And because these interns are students, they are your peers. I get feedback from them as to what it is that they want and they need. And so I think I'm able to provide and deliver some of the things that you want and that you need. And we've done a series of surveys, and the first survey that came back was, how to navigate the marketplace in your career. And we did a presentation on LinkedIn and how to help that. That's actually in the Lifeshine Generosity coaching community right now. And you can access that. In fact, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. So the second thing that we came up with, the second survey that we did came back, hey, how do I do an interview? Because an interview is so important. And so today, after I show you a little bit about the Lifeshine Generosity community, which is brand new, it's got lots of room for improvement, but we're hoping you'll help us do that. We're going to talk to you a little bit today about, what it takes to be effective at an interview, how to ace an interview, right? When you ace it and you have that thing called confidence. Justin is going to share with us a word cloud in just a minute, where I'm going to ask you to ask everybody on the presentation to enter one word that describes what you most fear or you most would like to learn from today's session. So before I go down that path, I just want to show you the Lifeshine Generosity community so you kind of get an idea what that looks like. So I'll do that real quick here. All right, so this is the community. You've all joined. You had to join the community. There's no cost. You had to join the community to be able to get access to the link. And notice that on the left-hand side, you've got menu items, and on the right-hand side, you've got some things called trending posts. There is a welcome session, so you can, if you're interested, you can walk through that and kind of gives you an idea of what's going on here. Lifeshine Salt and Light is where all of the interns do their posts. They do 90+% of the posts for Business Whitt, Lifetime Generosity Coaching on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And so many of those posts are sitting here. And some of them, and again, the internship that we're talking about here is about marketing, but some of them are about this particular event. But as you get farther down into it, you'll find things that are talking about just life in general. Trying to get far enough to get there, because these are all about the presentation that we just did. But you'll see lots of reasons as to why we're doing what we're doing and whatnot. And we do a lot of these really hopefully inspirational and motivational quotes. But again, I'll reach out to you as new members of the community, and maybe you want to have a conversation. I'm certainly happy to do that with you. Generosity Growth Live, this is where we have the different events. And we're hoping to have one of these events for the community, once a month. And at the end of this session, I'll ask you a little bit about what you'd like in the next event. Then we have what we call generosity videos. And again, generosity is the whole key here. If there's only one thing I get out of this, is that if you take a generous approach to the world, if you take a generous approach to the interview, if you take the approach where you're going to be patient and kind, you're going to have much better success. You don't have to do that. Not everybody does that, but you're going to have much better success if you have a generous approach to life. So there's some videos here on generosity, and then there's a generosity challenge in case you're interested in something of that sort. And then down in the tools section is where you'll find some of the videos that we've done in the past. All of this is free. It's all available to you now. And in addition, you can comment on any of the videos or any of the posts, but you can also go over to members, and we've got quite a few folks in here now, and you can direct message me. I'm in here somewhere. I think I'm probably at the top. Yeah, this would be me over here. So you can direct message me if you have any particular questions. All right, so that's just a little bit of a walkthrough of what the Lifeshine Generosity community is. So now what I'd like to do is I'll stop sharing, and I'll ask Justin, do we have the link for the word cloud?
Yeah, I'll send it to the chat right now.
All right, so everybody, if you click on that link in the word cloud and enter one word that describes what it is that you really want to learn from this session. And we're all doing it, including me. Actually, you can put more than one word in here. I didn't know that. If you want to put more than one word in, go ahead. So the idea here is that I want to make sure that I address each of these particular words, each of these particular questions, to make sure that you get the most out of this 1 hour session, 1 hour. And we're trying to do these very quickly. I mean, I could spend all day doing this, but I want to really make it fast and informative and valuable for all of the attendees. All right, so you can add, I think you can add how to dress professional. Good job. So you can add words later in person versus virtual prep. Okay. I'm taking these notes so that I can make sure that I've got it. Okay, so the intent here is to really address a couple of components. Everything fits into a couple of components. when it comes to getting ready and acing your interview. And so the first one is preparation. Stress management, what a great word. So the first one is preparation, and the cool thing about preparation is that there's no time constraint. You have lots of time to prepare and research. And then there's what I call in the moment, like when you're in the interview itself. And I want to talk about both of those things. I want you to have a plan for preparation, and I want you to have a plan for sort of the in the moment. All right. Now, all of these things that we're looking at here on the word cloud have to do with either preparation or planning, right? So when we say how to dress professional, that would be in the preparation space. How to overcome nervousness. Now, there might be some anxiety and nervousness pre-interview, but I'm thinking that's probably in the interview, right? Nervousness. How to do research, stress management. How do I manage the stress at the moment? And I think that's probably more of an in the moment concept. In-person versus virtual prep. I don't know that the prep is a whole lot different, but in the moment is different, in person versus virtual. And then composition in an interview. I want to give you a plan so that when you get into your interview, you have a plan that allows you to execute effectively. And then, as much as any plan, we love them to work, right? Every plan goes to heck in a handbasket at first contact with the enemy. That's an old patent saying, but there's always going to be a question that you didn't know, or there's almost always going to be something that comes out of the interview that you're not prepared for, because there's no way you can prepare for every little thing. And so what you have to do is you have to have a plan for that, right? So when that happens, how do I deal with it? How do I address that? How do I address that particular issue? So let's first go into, let's talk about overcoming nervousness and stress. The things that really make a huge difference for people in that stress and nervousness space is confidence, right? If you know your stuff, if you've got it all down, you know exactly what you're doing, you know exactly what you're going to say, you've got all the confidence in the world, not nervousness and stress, they're not as strong. Now, I'm not telling you they're going to be zero, but you're going to have a lot more comfort if you have all the confidence that you need to be effective in that particular interview. So the first thing that you have to do, let's talk about preparation, right? So you've all got your college degree. You've all started to figure out, like, where do I want to go for a career? Now, by the way, understand that your first choice, first job, et cetera, may not be the one you want for the rest of your life. I mean, the old days of 50 years and a gold watch, they don't happen anymore. Even in my lifetime, when I was younger, it was like 7 to 10 years. And I think it's like 3 to 5 now. That's more likely the situation. So it's really understanding, what do you need to learn so you can get to the next place? If somebody entering the waiting room, what do you need to learn so that you can get to the next place and the next level? So the first thing I want you to do is I just want you to think about, what is it that I really want? What is it that I really need? Now, and some of it is, yes, I need a paycheck. I need to make some money. I need to have insurance. I need to have benefits. But the reality is that you're going to spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week at this thing, whatever it happens to be. And it would be a way better situation if you enjoyed that time, that energy, and what you were doing, as opposed to, being miserable, right? So what is it that you really want to do? What is it that you really want to try and accomplish? So if you were to, and I'm going to take off the word cloud because there's a cursor kind of moving around there, and there's all kinds of interesting things. So I'm going to take the screen back, and we'll go do a little preparation work. So depending on, oh, hey, look at that. That's kind of neat how it's got the same thing right there. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish, what kind of job you're doing, you want to do some research. Where are you going to do the research? You're going to do the research on Google and probably LinkedIn. Now, you might also be able to do some research on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or Glassdoor. These are the big job advertising sites that we've got available to us now. So let's say, I'm just going to use an example, right, that you want to go into the marketing world, right? And you'd like to be, at some point, you'd like to be a marketing account manager, but let's say you're going to be a junior account manager in the marketing space for a little bit. And so what you could do is you could go into Google and you could type in job titles and duties for a junior marketing account manager. Right, and I didn't spell that very well. Guilty, 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 guilty. Right, and so here's a list of the types of things that you want. Now, to be honest with you, you're going to get a, you're probably responding to some sort of a job description. And you're going to want to make sure that you've got, and realize that they're going to ask you questions related to that job description. And so you want to make sure that you've got your answers for that job description dialed in. But you can do a lot of research on Google to find out different information about those particular roles, right? So what are the types of jobs? And so you could also ask yourself, if you were looking for sort of a career path, right? What is the common, and these are things that you guys, I'm not gonna do a lot of this, but career path for marketing professionals. I put this in only because, you know, Google is my favorite tool, Dr. Google, right? 9 marketing career paths you can pursue. So whatever you're doing, whatever job you're going after, right, you're going to want to do a large degree or some research on Google to understand what kind of job is that, what are the typical roles, what are the typical behaviors that are necessary for that particular job. The other place you're going to look is probably on LinkedIn. And if you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, you should. Because up here, you could do something like look for a company. And when you look for a company like Nike, here we go, companies. You can also visit the website and you can learn about a lot of people that are at Nike and connect with a lot of people at Nike, right? These are people that are, you know, at Nike. And the nice thing about that is that you can actually have conversations with people at Nike in advance that allow you to understand more about that job, or understand more about that company, or understand more about that culture. So one of the things I would recommend, right, if you've got a job and you say, listen, I really want to work at Nike, and some of you want to work at big companies, and some of you are going to want to work at small companies. But let's say that you really want to work at a big company and it's got good benefits, et cetera, nice career path. You're going to want to do as much research as you can on that, and not just the company, but the role that you are going to be applying for, and the type of culture that's there. Now, one of the things that you're going to want to do for yourself, right, in terms of this preparation, is understanding what your skills, what your strengths, and what your talents are. If you say, listen, I'm a student at UCI and I've completed these courses, well, that's some education, that's good, and that's important and valuable. But more importantly than anything, coming out of college and going into the role is having the right attitude and the right behaviors and the willingness to go do the work and to demonstrate that you're willing to live those behaviors. So you might engage, in fact, I would recommend this to everyone, is to purchase the Strengths Finders book, right? I think it's 20, 25 bucks or something like that. And that's a huge tool in the corporate world. And if you are speaking to your strengths to the person that's interviewing you, then they'll understand and they'll be able to have a better conversation with you. So you're gonna look at to learn as much about the organization, as much about the culture. And the other thing that you can do, if you're talking to somebody inside the organization because you've built a relationship with them through LinkedIn, then you can ask them, hey, what are the types of interview questions? Because wouldn't you like, isn't an exam easier if you know all the questions before you take the exam? So if you knew the questions the interviewer was going to give you before you got to the interview, wouldn't that be a lot easier to prepare? So if we could go find that information somewhere, that would be really helpful. You can find it through LinkedIn. If you build relationships with other people at that organization, they'll help you. They'll help you with those questions. The other thing you can do is you can go back to Google and you can say, what are the common interview questions for a junior account manager? And you'll get a list of those questions. And here's 15 account manager interview questions and answers. Right? So that you're prepared. These are the questions they're going to ask, that you're prepared. All right. Excuse me. Hmm. Um, so preparation is the thing about preparation that I want you to remember is, first off, be generous to yourself. Give yourself the time to do the preparation. What's the old saying? Failure to plan is planning to fail, right? So if you got an interview next week, let's be doing the work. Let's be doing the research here. If you want, you can send me questions in the community about, where can you find where can I go to get this or go there. I'm more than happy to help you with those kinds of things. That's one of the nice things about having a community. And you'll get notices anytime we do another event. So preparation, the thing that's important, be generous to yourself, give yourself the time to do the research. Don't walk in at the last minute, because that's, again, failure to plan is planning to fail. Be generous to yourself, do the work, and you have plenty of time in advance of the interview to get that preparation done. All right, so let's talk a little bit about in the moment, right? So I think I talked about research, and I talked about preparation, I talked about planning. The other ones that were on the list was how to dress, in-person versus virtual, composition. I think that's of the interview itself, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And then stress management. Now, stress management, again, confidence, stress management, those things, those are really a function of your confidence. Those are a function of your comfortability in walking into that interview. Understand that if you are prepared, if you're organized and you're ready to, and you really want that job and you know the answers, then it's going to be a lot easier. You're going to have a lot more confidence, a lot less stress, and a lot less nervousness. When it comes to dress, I would tell you that I think no longer is, and I won't tell you that I work from home. It's my home office. I get to wear whatever I want. I typically, when I'm on a call, I'll wear something like a polo shirt or something. But I think business casual is the key today. I think that you want to demonstrate your professionalism. So I wouldn't wear things that are overly baggy or loose or have holes in them or anything of that sort. Now, I think at the same time, you might discover some things with respect to the culture of the organization. And so if it is a culture of clothing where your fashion is maybe not as corporate, then I think you want to resemble what the organization is, right? You don't want to overdress. Ideally, you don't want to overdress. You don't want to underdress. It's far worse to underdress than it is to overdress. If you overdress a little bit, people accept that. If you underdress, they're just going to say, "What the heck were you thinking?" Right? So, and again, you can learn the dress code, the dress style in your research on that particular company. In fact, you can call the company receptionist and ask that person, "Hey, what's the culture like? What's the dress like? What's this like?" That's the research that you want to do, because that's going to allow you to be more comfortable, less stressful, and less nervous. All right. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about in the moment, right? So now you've done your homework, done the research, you've made a list of questions, you've got canned answers, you've got your answers for each of those questions. You've got this process where you're going to tell them about you and who you are and what you do and what you're good at. You got all that stuff covered, and you're going into the interview. Now, again, you get to do all that stuff in advance, and you have got a lot of time to be able to put that together in advance. But once you get into the interview, now we don't have that time anymore. So as a golfer, you get this process of when evaluating your golf ball and your club selection and the wind, and you can take as much time as you want to do that. Well, not as much time, but you can take a lot of time. But once you're into the swing, it's like 1 second, right? You don't get to play with it once you're into the swing. So you want to follow the process. Although there is a plan and a process for in the moment. So when we think of an interview, it's like a mini sales session, right? What are you selling? You're selling yourself. This is a job that you want, and you have to demonstrate that you are the right resource for this role. That's your goal. When you go into an interview, your goal is to say, "Hey, here's who I am. This is what I do. This is what I do well. And I want to know if this will fit in your organization? Will this fit in that company? So you're actually interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. And in that sales process, the very first step is called building rapport. Building rapport, and again, I think dress falls into this space, right? So dress is first impression work. Building rapport is first impression work. Whenever you walk into a meeting, whenever you walk into an interview, you have enough time to ask one or two kind of personal questions to start to build rapport, right? So you could ask them, what is it about, before we get started, I'm real excited to be here, but before we get started, I kind of want to just get to know you a little bit. What do you like best about this job? Or what do you do when you're not working, right? Because we're building a relationship, and we're building a relationship. And again, and we want this relationship to the extent that it grows into a likability factor and a trust factor. So when we talk about building rapport, we share a little bit about who we are, they share a little bit about who they are, and then we get into the meat of the interview. You always have time for at least one question. Often you have times for two questions. Right? Now your interviewer is busy, their job is to hire somebody, and they've probably got lots of people that they're interviewing. The slide that we had when we opened the site was 5 people sitting in a chair waiting for their interview. This is the way it is, right? People are looking for jobs. And what you need to do is you need to stand out, and you'll stand out because you've done your homework. You'll stand out because you've got the questions, the answers to the questions. You'll stand out because you've done the research that's necessary to be able to stand out. Dress being one of those, right? And so I think making sure that you're covered in that space. And so building rapport starts with getting to know you. So there's a formula called know, like, and trust. Getting to know you, who are you, outside of work, outside of, just what kind of a person are you? That's part of building rapport. Likability is the next stage, right? People want to work with, and people will hire people that they like. If they don't like you, then the likelihood of them hiring you or you going on to the next interview isn't very high. And likability is just being kind, it's being generous, it's being patient. And when I say generous, it's not about giving somebody money. It's just answering the questions. It's being polite. You don't have to be that way, but if you are that way, you're going to get a lot farther, right? And that's going to increase your likability factor. The higher the likability factor, the higher the trust factor, right? And in this first interview, you're not going to build the be all end all trust, but you're going to start the building of that trust, right? And you're going to be authentic, and you're going to explain to them who you are and what you do and what your strengths are. And you're going to be building that trust factor. And all you want to do is, in fact, you don't even have to be the number one. Typically, like if you're interviewing at Nike, you don't have to be in that first interview. You don't have to be the top candidate. You've got to be one of the top 5, because they're going to take 5 candidates and move them on to the next level, right? But you're always going to want to build rapport, build trust as we go into that. Now, once we've gone through that stage of building rapport and building trust, then we're going to start to ask questions about the situation. The situation. In other words, why are you hiring for this job? What does this job mean? And this is classic sales, right? Where we want to know what's going on, and we want to know if our product or our service fits what they need. Is our product or our service me? Am I the best tool to serve their need? Well, I got to know what their need is first. So we can ask questions, and I will tell you, you'll get bonus points from an interviewer if you're asking questions. If they're asking all the questions and you're not asking any questions, then you're going to be just like most of the other people, and they're not going to get much of you, right? They're only going to get the answers that they ask questions for. But if you're asking questions, and they can tell, somebody that asks good questions ranks higher on the level than somebody that doesn't ask any questions at all. So what is this? Tell me about this role. Tell me what's most important, and what happens when that role is performed well? What does that mean to the company? How soon does it need to be? How quickly do these things have to happen? So the second piece of the conversation is understanding the situation and what it means and what the potential urgency is. Like, how soon are you going to hire? How important is it to hire somebody quickly? So the second part of that equation, the first part is building rapport. The second part is situation. Now they're going to ask you questions, but you get to ask them questions as well. All right. And again, you're going to stand out because of the quality of your questions. And you could go in and you prepare your questions in advance so that you're ready. In fact, you can bring, crib notes on your phone. Not a problem. Oh, somebody else coming in. So people are slowly figuring out that our Zoom link didn't work. And thank God we're recording this so you can get it later. All right, so first point of in the moment is building rapport. Second is situation. What does it mean? And what kind of urgency do we have? And then the third piece is where you as an individual identify whether or not you fit this role, right? Do your talents, do your strengths, does your education, does it fit this role based on what they've said? And only if the answer is yes, right? If you're trying to shoehorn yourself into a role that doesn't really fit you, it's not good for the company and it's not good for you. In fact, there's a rule out there today that it takes about 10,000 hours to become an expert. An expert is somebody that's a 9 or a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. An expert commands the marketplace. An expert gets to decide where they want to work and how much they want to charge. Experts have the power. If you're an 8, you're pretty good, but you're lacking something. And if you're a 7, you're just average. You're not a big deal. So it takes 10,000 hours. That's what they say, 10,000 hours to become an expert. Now imagine that you jump yourself into a job and each year is worth about 2,000 hours. Now imagine you jump yourself into a job and it's not the one you really wanted and you spent 2,000 and 4,000 hours and now you got to start your 10,000 hours all over again. You don't want to do that. You want to get into the right place and make sure that you're getting to your expertise level as quickly as possible. Now you may not know. You may not know where you want to be in the long run for your career, et cetera, et cetera. So you're going to base it on, what do I think is the right thing? But don't shoehorn yourself. Don't try to sell yourself or shoehorn yourself into a role that really doesn't fit you. Doesn't fit your personality, doesn't fit your culture, doesn't fit your strengths. It's not good for you and it's not good for the company. But the third component here is presentation, right? How do I fit into this? So I think I'm the right guy. I think I'm the right person. I think I'm the right girl. I think I'm the right person because, and then we lay out our benefits, the things that we deliver to the business, the things that we deliver to the organization. Now, I can list my education, which is pretty normal, and your education is typically on your resume. I can list my skills, which is the application of knowledge. Education is knowledge and skills is the application of knowledge. And those are really important. You don't have, most college students don't have a ton of experience, but that's expected. What you can do to help you stand out from the crowd, standing out in this presentation. And it's really important that you get the situation first before you do the presentation. If you try to sell yourself first, it breaks down, right? Because you're selling into something that you don't know the details of. But if you know the details and now you can present your stuff, the one thing that you have that they want to know is what are your strengths? What's your attitude? What are your behaviors, right? Do your strengths, does your attitude, do your behaviors fit this particular role? And so when you're asking questions about the situation, and if you've got your strengths finders or if you've got any other assessments that I do or others do, then you can say, hey, my style, my strengths are X and Y and Z, and they would fit into what you're looking for in this fashion. They would be really helpful. My education in this space, in this space, in this space fits that role and fits into that education and fits what you need very effectively. My attitude, because I don't give up, I have perseverance, I have discipline, whatever it is, right? It fits that role. Now, again, you got to be trustworthy, you got to be honest, got to be authentic, because you don't want to tell them things that you don't want to tell them what they want to hear. You want to tell them what is really important and really valuable, because that's how you're going to build the trust factor. And if you fit that role, their job is to hire people. Their job is to find people that fit the role. And if you can adequately describe how you fit that role, because you know effectively what the situation is, what it means, and what the urgency is, then you elevate your candidacy for that particular position. So when we talk about composition for the interview, I think that's what we're talking about. I think, Terry, that might have been a question of yours. Maybe I might be wrong, but composition for the interview is kind of having that plan where we're going to build rapport, we're going to ask the situation, We're going to understand what it means to the organization. And then we're going to do our presentation. Now, all that being said, they're probably still going to have some questions. They're probably going to ask you some questions like, oh yeah, what about this? Or how about this? Or how about that? And all I can tell you is I want you to be honest and say, this is how it really fits into that. And when they ask questions in the sales world, they're called objections. But in the interview world, they're just going to be questions, right? And you have to overcome those. You have to answer those questions effectively, right? In order to move your candidacy forward in that particular role, that particular job. Now, ideally, what's happened is you've done your research, right? And we are expecting all of these questions. They're going to ask, well, tell me a story about your strength in that particular space, or tell me a story about your, and stories, by the way, are the way to communicate. Facts tell, stories sell. So they're going to say, tell me a story about how that happened. Tell me a story about how you had to collaborate, or how you had to do this. Be prepared for those questions, because that they're going to do it. And you can get a list of those questions on the internet. You can get a list of those questions off of LinkedIn or Indeed or Glassdoor or ZipRecruiter. And you're going to be prepared for every one of those questions and be able to answer those questions honestly, because you've given it some thought and you're prepared. And again, it's okay. People bring these things into meetings all the time, right? You can have your notes right there so you don't forget, right? Now, you're going to have to overcome those objections, answer those questions effectively to be able to move on to the next level. But that's the 4 steps. So the first step is rapport, second one is situation, third one is presentation, fourth one is overcoming objections or answering questions, right? Now, what happens if they ask you a question that you just don't know? Really, it's out of the blue. You didn't expect it at all. You know, back when, if anybody watched, oh, I forget the guys who wrote Knights of the Holy Grail, but they ask all kind of weird questions. And that's a terrible analogy. Sorry about that, guys. There will always be, or might always be, a question that comes out of the blue that you didn't expect. And I think for most of us, you know, not everybody processes like this. Not everybody thinks about it. It's okay to buy a little time. So one of the ways you buy times is you repeat the question. So you're asking me this and this and this and this. Is that correct? So you just bought yourself a little bit of time. Your brain is trying to come up with the answer at the same time as you're buying a little bit of time. And then you can ask some clarifying questions. Well, did you mean this, or did you mean that? Or what does that really mean? Or how come that's important? Or why is that valuable? And again, you're getting more details to be able to answer that question. And in the sales world, the same thing happens. A buyer comes in and says, well, you know, I really need it faster, or I really needed to do this, or I really needed to do that. And that wasn't a part of the original concept at all. And so now buyer's telling you, the buyer, in this case, the interview person, is telling you what it is that they need, and you're going to have to come up with an answer. And so now you're going to want to ask a lot of clarifying questions to understand what it is that's important. We're back in that situation space again, to understand what's important so that you can present yourself, your strengths, your character in the light of what they are actually wanting and needing. All right, so that's sort of the in the moment piece. If you want to be comfortable in the moment, and you want less stress, and you want less anxiety, first make sure that this is a job that you really want, that's important, because if you really want it, then you'll do the work. It's just like another, no, it doesn't work. If you don't do the work, then you can't expect to be the winner at the end of it. But then what is the preparation plan? Like, what are the things that you need to do to research this company, to research this job, to research the hiring manager, to research the operating manager? Now, all of those things might be important, because this might be your life for 40 to 60 hours a week for the next however many hours, because that's what careers are. That's what careers do. And you might say, oh, no, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Well, entrepreneurs don't work less hours, let me tell you. They work the same amount of hours, if not more. Now, entrepreneurs love it because they get a little more control. They get a little more opportunity to decide when they start, when they finish, and if they want to work late, sleep late, they can do those kinds of things. But that when you look at the total number of hours an entrepreneur or a business owner puts in on a weekly basis compared to somebody that has a job at a corporation, they're working as hard or as many hours or more than most corporations. And I think entrepreneurship is a great career. That's why I'm a business coach. But it's not for everybody, right? And sometimes you want to go get some experience working for somebody or experience working in another organization before you launch your entrepreneurial venture. All right, so really wanted to make sure, I'm going to check my list here, make sure that I covered all the things I wanted to cover here. So let me ask my intern team, Terry, Mika, Justin, did you guys have any questions? I don't know if you have any questions in chat or not. Terry, was I able to answer your questions?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay, so we covered the list, the word cloud list. Justin, are you still there? Can we throw a word cloud up there again real quick and say, is there anything else that we need to cover, or is there anything else that you'd like a little more depth on?
Okay.
And I like the way the word clouds work.
Give me a sec. We'll use the same link from before.
The same
Just
link?
making
Okay.
new question right now.
All right. So those of you that did it before, please do it again. Oh, so here you're asking for people to actually type in a question, right? Justin?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can ask any question you want through the word cloud. It's a little bit like chat in many ways.
Sure.
So I got to be honest with you, I love the international flair of my intern business. So I've had students from around the world, and it's really pretty fun. But I will tell you that one of the challenges in working in the United States is English language. English as a second language is a tough animal. English is not an easy language to learn, and takes lots of practice. But I think in many ways, another tool that I think many of you are probably using, but maybe haven't thought about using in terms of an interview, right, is ChatGPT, right? Is AI. Now I use ChatGPT. There's a bunch of different AIs out there, but I think if you asked the same questions we talked about earlier, what are the common titles in the marketing space for account manager in marketing, or project manager, or economics, you might find that there are a lot of information that comes back through ChatGPT, and then you can say, what are the tools and what are the duties and what are the typical questions? Like, let's just try that for a second. All right, while they're filling out the questions, Justin, I'm going to grab the screen back. What are the typical interview questions I'm just going to use junior marketing executive to start with. Now you may want a different role. Oh, this is awesome. I didn't know. These are all of the things that you can be prepared for. Oh my gosh, let's imagine that you're prepared for all of those answers. How much confidence are you going to have going into this meeting? That is pretty amazing. All right, I see one message in chat. Justin, did we get any questions in our
Not yet. There's no questions yet.
okay. So let me take a couple more minutes and then we'll wrap it up. We're going to do a little jam board with you. We're going to ask you what your top takeaways were for the session. And we're going to ask you a little bit about what you'd like to see in the next session. Understand that everybody has a communication style that they've built and nurtured through their life from the day they were born and their parents and their education, et cetera, et cetera. It's important to understand that everybody has a different style. And there's 4 that I use all the time, and I use this from a DISC assessment practice. There's a dominant person who is very goal-centric and very time-centered. There's an influencer, and I think you've probably met influencers in the past, where recognition is a big component of who they are. There's the ambivalent one, sort of the one that kind of goes with the flow. That doesn't mean that they don't care. It's not important, but they're just not going to tell you or show you a whole lot. And then there's the analytical type. If you take the time to learn a little bit about those, or if you message me in the community, I can share some information about that. I think you'll find that you could approach different styles at different times. Your interviewer, your initial interviewer, the gatekeeper, so to speak, might be one style, but the person that actually does the hiring might be another style. So understanding behavioral styles can make a huge difference. It does make a big difference in the sales world. So ChatGPT does some pretty neat stuff. That's amazing. I love that kind of thing. All right.
There's one question actually. I'll share my screen.
Okay, I see a question here. It says, people recommend sending emails to recruiters on LinkedIn when you're applying for the job. Oops. Was reading that chat, it just went away. Does it seem too needy? So the answer is, depends on how you write the email, right? I think if you're looking for advice because you want to put your best foot forward, I don't think that's needy at all. Like, I would like to know, I'm going to go interview. I'd like to work at this job. I've done the research. I know the kind of company that I want to work for. And reaching out to a recruiter and asking them do they know anything about this or about that or something else. I don't think that is too needy at all. And in fact, LinkedIn was created for recruiters. It does a lot more than that right now, but it was really all about finding talent, and developing relationships with recruiters is a strong practice. So it's not too needy at all. In fact, I would do it. I would recommend it, and I would expect it. How to be calm during a stress interview. Are there any strategies? Is there another unread message? No, this is it. So I just want to make sure I understand this question, right? I think what I'm hearing is that it's a stressful interview, and I want to know how to be calm, right? Is that the way I look at it? I think that's it, and I hope that's how I'm answering this. Again, if you have done your homework and you've done ChatGPT and you've got the questions and you've done all the research, you're going to have a heck of a lot more confidence and a lot less stress and a lot less anxiety in the moment. But I believe this is my approach, and I'm not the only one. There are other approaches out there too. I want to really focus in on what the other person is saying. Right? It gets me out of my head, gets me not thinking about me and how I feel, and focused 100% on what that other person is saying, so that I can serve them, so I can answer their questions to the best of my ability. If I got into an interview and somebody was, I don't know, just say they were attacking me or something like that verbally, and I didn't enjoy it, I'd find my way out of that as quickly as possible. That's not where I want to work. But if it is something that I really want, and there's some excitement and some nervousness associated with that, then I would focus as much energy as possible on the individual that's asking the questions, to get it off of me, get it out of my sort of out of my heart, out of my body, and into somebody else. I hope that helps. Okay, let's do this. Justin, if you wouldn't mind, let's do the Jamboard.
There's actually one more question.
Oh.
I'm sharing my screen. Right.
I see one that says, yes, it does. Thank you. And I'm thank you. It's helpful. I don't know. Do you see any more, Justin? I don't see any more.
I'm sharing my screen to the
Oh,
question.
there we go. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, deciding factors for hiring manager. So the initial interview is often with human resources. That's not the hiring manager. When you're working with the human resources person, you just need to demonstrate that you have the skills and the knowledge and the strengths to serve that role effectively. But they're not going to make a decision, right? They're basically going to move you to the next phase of the hiring process, in which case you might be meeting with the hiring manager. Now, one of the questions I would have is this a hiring manager or is this the person I would actually going to work for? So if it's the person I'm actually going to work for, then I want to know what their behaviors are, what their style is, what's important to them, what's valuable to them. Because again, I want to know, does my style fit? Not my style that I had to work hours and hours and hours and learn how to be a different person. I want to know who, to me as a person, as an individual, do I fit? And so I'd ask a bunch of questions. Deciding factors for hiring managers. They are looking for, and this is real common, they are looking for the person that best fills the role, that best understands and best fills the role. This is why when we take that process and we build a little rapport and then we get into the situation and we start asking questions, hiring managers love it when you ask questions because then you're paying attention, right? You're demonstrating your curiosity, you're demonstrating your inquisitiveness, you're digging into the details, you're demonstrating your strengths right there in front of that hiring manager. And so a lot of times hiring managers will really appreciate that. Now, when it comes to salary and benefits and compensation, that's a different discussion. That's a negotiations discussion. But you want to get to the point where the hiring manager says, you're the guy I want. You're the person I think is best in this job. Because when that happens, then you hold more cards. Then you have the opportunity to negotiate for higher levels of compensation. All right, I hope that helps. So how will we fit into the culture? Do you as a person fit into that? All right, so Justin, let's go to Jamboard. Again, the recording for this will be in Lifeshine Generosity Community. It'll be in that tools section, but either I or one of my team members, one of these interns here, will reach out to you to make sure that you understand it. So please, if you wouldn't mind, help us to get better. Identify what your top takeaways from today's session are. I can't answer this one because I don't know if I have any top takeaways.
I sent the link to the Jamboard on the chat section.
Oh, there they are. Okay. One of the things I teach and one of the things you'll get connected to in the community is the Culture for Success program. Each of these interns has been through that program, but when it comes to attitude is the, without a doubt, is the most critical component that you can bring to the job. Your attitude, your willingness, your desire, your diligence. There are stories out there of people that didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the skill, pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and became very, very successful. They make movies out of those guys. They make movies out of those people. It's very possible. At the same time, there's people that have plenty of education and can't seem to get out of their own way. I appreciate you guys taking some time and giving us the top 3 takeaways. I hope that you decide to join us for our next one. In fact, the next question I'm going to ask, and if we have time, because I do respect your time, and I wanted to make sure that we got everything covered here in 1 hour. I hope it was filled with value, that your 1 hour that you invested. Use the useful tools. Do the right preparation. So, you know, when I see the comments like this, I'm really happy because it means I was talking about the right stuff. The right attitude, confidence is key. The interview is for you to decide if the company is right fit for you. You're going to spend hours and hours and hours of your life with whatever company this is. Let's make sure that it works for you, that you fit into that space. That when you wake up in the morning, there's a little bit of, ideally, there's a little bit of excitement, a little bit of joy. You get to go do something, you get to go learn something, you get to go work with people. You're kind of excited about that, as opposed to, I can't believe I have to go to this thing again. All right, and we'll also reach out to you. I think we're going to run out of time here in a minute. We'll reach out to you and ask you some questions regarding probably a survey that you can help us decide what our next event will cover. And if there, and again, because you're in the Lifetime Generosity community today, you can message me. You can message one of the other interns. They're all in the Lifetime Generosity community as well. If there's anything else that you are, especially with respect to this, you know, what I would call a strategic inflection point. You've been in through the education system. You've been through academia forever. Up through high school, you kind of did what everybody else told you how to do, and when you get into college, you're starting to make your own decisions. But moving from academia into the career world, that's a big step. It's a big shift. It's a big change. And I just would like to prepare you as much as I can to be successful in that space. All right, all of this work, all of this effort, it is work. It is effort if you're going to be successful. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of effort. And it takes a little bit of sometimes inspiration, takes a little bit of motivation. And I'll just leave you guys with this. One of my favorite quotes is from Zig Ziglar. Now, Zig isn't with us any longer, but he was a very, very well-known motivational speaker. And he said, motivation is a lot like bathing. It doesn't last. And that's why that's why we recommend the bath every day. Right? Motivation doesn't last. It's like bathing. That's why we recommend that you take a bath or take a shower every single day. Make sure that you're putting your mindset into the right place on a daily basis. Guys, I love you. I'm glad you attended. I'm really excited for it. And we'll get together as a team next week and triage what we're doing and see if we can't make it better, and reach out and talk to you some more about our next event and anything else that we can possibly help you with. So thanks for attending, guys. Love you, and we'll see you next time.